So the CCC did a lot of stuff for building and parks like that, and they helped build the visitor center during the Great Depression. This is a bat native to the island. I guess it somehow flew all the way over there to those islands. It means half leaf in the native Hawaiian language there, and it can just it has a long leaf, and it doesn't live in caves. It grows in trees instead, so just kind of interesting. These are some more shots of the lava flowing into the water at points, and a little live video of the lava boiling and stuff. Combusting. It looks cool. And did I put a date? Oh, okay, there we go. It was established in 1916, so pretty early, the year the National Park Service was officially established as one whole unit. So another one worth mentioning because it's early. Mauna Loa means like long mountain, as you can kind of see. It looks like a long mountain. And this is just a little bit of the the underworkings of the mountain, or underworkings of the magma, and how it like comes up with the hotspot. And this is a depiction of Kilauea, one of the most active erupting volcanoes, as you saw. And these are some dancers. Okay, there we go. Another park I really loved was the Ozarks. It is in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. It's kind of like a string of springs, and the water that comes out is like really blue. They have a hole that water falls out, that's kind of like a natural wonder. And just this is like the water, and it's very blue. And if you ever get a chance to visit in the area, I highly recommend it. I swam around, and you could like see the fish in the water, and this waterfall was pretty fun to swim around into. White Sands, New Mexico is the newest national park. It has white sand, and it's pretty big. I slept out under the stars. This isn't me, different photo. This is me. But it's just pretty. A park ranger gave us a tour guide of all like the plants in the area and how the sand came to be, how it's so white, what's it made out of. So it was a nice experience. Harper's Ferry is one of the historic parks. This is where John Brown had his raid by trying to start a slave revolt in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. This is a photo of me up here at the top where Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia all meet, and the Shenandoah and the Potomac rivers meet. They come kind of like this. And my grandfather was a park superintendent here at one point, so kind of is a special place for me. This is Picture Rocks National Park in Michigan. It has a lot of sandstone formations and holes in the walls and clear water with Lake Michigan. And it was in 1966 established, so not super recently, not super early. This is my little sister. So in 1980, President Jimmy Carter doubled the size of the national park system when he signed something with Alaska. It's called ANILSA, the acronym, Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation. So just a lot of this land he expanded Mount McKinley or Denali. He made that bigger, and he added a lot of different national park land here. And you can just see the size of Alaska compared to the rest of the continental U.S. And this is
I'm in class. You at least
Wrangell and St. Elias, and this is Glacier Bay National Park Preserve. You can see Glacier Bay right here, Wrangell, St. Elias right here. So just Jimmy Carter set a lot of land aside. Alaskans were actually mad. They were like, no, this isn't protecting land. This is taking away our land. And like they saw their rights taken away. Here they burned Jimmy Carter or something. I don't know. But they were mad after. Take this, Jimmy Carter. But now I think Alaskans are happy and it protected a lot of beautiful land. These are the Kenai Fjords in Alaska, and this is Katmai National Park, which has a lot of bears and wildlife. So he accepted that Alaska would endure as the last frontier, like it would remain wild and unsettled. And he included 10 new national parks and a bunch of other stuff, wild scenic rivers, wildlife refuges.
I can't hear you.
So yeah, 104 million acres in total were designated for protection.
Yeah.
An area larger than the state of California. That's crazy. That just shows how big it is. Okay, pop quiz. If you could please get out a piece of paper and number it from 1 to 10. I'll give a couple moments here. Oh. I appreciate everyone participating and stuff because this isn't for a grade entirely, but it's good. Okay. The first park in the East. Is it A, Shenandoah National Park, B, Yellowstone, C, Acadia, D, the Smoky Mountains? Bonus point if you can answer what state the first park in the East is in. Okay, next question. Not a characteristic on the National Park Service emblem. So not. Is it archaeological with the arrowhead, scenic with the lake and mountain, wildlife with the bison and the tree, or Mather's plaques with the inscriptions on the National Park Service emblem?
That's true. I like Tatum. Smart, Jalen Brown.
Okay, next question. Stephen Mather, blank, made the parks more cohesive, lost money due to his unsuccessful borax company, could not get along with Horace Albright, was never hospitalized for depression, or was the governor of Florida when he was 62. Okay, moving on. Historic sites under the National Park Service, blank, include battlefields from the Civil War and Revolutionary, national cemeteries, memorials, and military parks. Make the system not only for scenic areas, but also for influential national individuals. All the above. A, B, C, or D. Okay, next question. There we go. I haven't actually mentioned this, but make your best guess. Claire Marie Hodges was A, the first paid female park ranger, B, a Californian who was a popular polo player, C, the daughter-in-law of Rockefeller Sr., D, forced to wear the same uniform as men.
I think he's worth the shot. I think he'll do fine. You think an assistant? You know what I'm saying? What do you think?
Good. Okay, I'm Which one's the small cat with no roar? Jaguar, tiger, panther, lion.
Yeah, isn't that why they got him on the Jeep?
Okay. These are cities in Australia, Europe, Africa,
Yeah.
South America, or none of the above.
Well, I think they'll say. Why so many cases?
Are we supposed to say the answer?
No, I'll go through it after.
Okay, sorry. I'm just late, so I was a little confused.
Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. A, believed in a connection between God, man, and nature. B, were transcendentalists. C, were contemporaries with John Muir. D, were from Massachusetts. Or E, A through D. You can just write it down on a scratch piece of paper.
I mean, for them. You know, see what gold and silver on?
Okay.
Silver's worth $30 an ounce.
What is this mountain range?
I mean,
Is it the Rockies, the Cascades, the Appalachians, or the Sierra Nevada mountains?
I think it's gonna, they're throwing this cheap money around. What do you think?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And these are the answers. So you can kind of check. I'll go through them real quick.
Yeah, I didn't put the letters, I put the answers.
Okay. So those are the letters C, D, A, D, A, C, B, E, C. And the first park in the east is Acadia in Maine. So, yeah. I should emphasize that point. The first park in the west officially was Yellowstone. Yosemite was a state park before it, and it became a national park after. So, not a characteristic on the National Park Service emblem. The arrowhead is archaeological. It has a lake and mountain, which is scenic, wildlife. But the Mather plaque isn't on the arrowhead emblem. They're at some parks. He made the parks more cohesive. He made it a solidified unit. Yeah, he was hospitalized for depression, and he died at 62, actually. So he was not the governor. And he made money due to a successful borax company, so he didn't lose money. And he did get along with Horace Albright. That was like his guy that helped him get a lot of stuff for the national parks done. Historic sites in the National Park Service include battlefields from the Civil, Revolutionary, War of 1812, probably World Wars, Cold Wars, national cemeteries, and it makes it not only for pretty areas, but also for people that have made our country better or were important in history, and it makes the Park Service more about our country. I feel like our history too, not just beautiful areas. So D, all the above. She was the first paid female park ranger, Claire Marie Hodges. She was not allowed to wear the same uniform as men for a while, so yeah. And I don't think she played polo, but she would ride her horse around a lot. I think she would carry mail back and forth several areas within the park. She worked at Yosemite, and yeah. The small cat was the panther, or the mountain lion, or cougar, but the other ones do have roars. So yeah, cats are interesting. I like starting them. They have good sight and paws and smell. These are cities in Europe. I kind of used this on the first day to show Europe was developed and America wasn't as developed when they first came here. So just kind of just show the opposite of, we had the opportunity to set land aside and not touch it. And that's kind of why it's an American idea. And I'll get into that later today. Ralph Waldo Emerson and David Thoreau, they were, all of the above. They believed in a connection between God, man, and nature, which is called transcendentalism. They lived at the same time that Muir did and probably influenced his ideas, and they were from Massachusetts. One was from Boston, one was from Concord, I believe. So yeah, they were writers. David Thoreau, they were the guys that lived in the little hut in nature alone with pretty simplistic lifestyle. This mountain range on the East Coast is the Appalachians. The Rockies are on the West Coast. The Cascades are kind of like northwest by Oregon and Washington. And the Sierra Nevadas are West Coast as well. The Sierra Club is named after the Sierra Nevada mountain range, which Muir co-founded. Okay, good job, guys. I'm just gonna mention President Trump and the environment, what he's done. He has pulled back some rules about drilling and wants to frack in Cali, which is like get oil out of the ground. So I don't know if that's good. This is the North Dakota, or the Dakota Access Pipeline, which goes through an Indian reservation. And he says we're just gonna do it anyways. But at least now the U.S. is the #1 exporter of oil. We're not dependent on other countries. Surprisingly, this year, he passed the Great American Outdoors Act, which is going to give $9.5 billion with the big B to maintain public lands and national parks. So that's kind of a plus, I think. It came to a surprise to many people that after him kind of being against the environment, he did something that would protect the environment. He asked Obama, back when Obama was president, to rename Denali as McKinley. Denali is the more, what the natives called the Big Mountain, versus Mount McKinley is like what we used to call it. And Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. And a lot of people with Trump cabinets believe that climate change is not that it's going to have catastrophic effects, nor that carbon dioxide is the primary contributor to climate change. I kind of agree more with the carbon dioxide part isn't maybe the primary contributor. Carbon in the atmosphere only makes up like 1/3%, 0.04, and you can see it's very small. A lot of carbon is being held up in livestock and like humans, because carbon is the building block, primary component of all known life. I don't know if the sea levels are rising like they say the glaciers are melting, but I think we should question everything a lot. Miami is like right at the sea, and it's not underwater yet, so our sea level is really rising that quick, and we are holding a lot of water up on land, using it in dams or using it for home residential uses. New York is also pretty close to sea level, and I don't know. All this plastic and stuff can't be good though. This is in Indonesia. I just Googled Indonesia with plastic. And I think we have like too many different kinds of plastic and too many things to recycle. I know a lot of my friends don't recycle. So companies should just make things that are easier to recycle. you know, like don't force every single person to recycle, but just make stuff that's better for the earth to begin with.
I don't think that Miami or New York City will fully be underwater because there's still skyscrapers. So they could
Yeah.
literally just build a super tall skyscraper, and it's like it'd have to be over 546 meters for it to go underwater.
True, but wouldn't like water like come up on your doorstep if the sea levels were really rising that much?
Oh, well, I guess they could just eventually just, I don't know, drain some of the oceans
True.
component.
Yeah. All this cars and burning stuff isn't good, but let's just question global warming and stuff, and carbon as the main cause of it. And these are oases in the desert, like a lot of life and trees that are thanks to technology. So a little more on visitation. 3.8 million people visited the US parks in 2018, which is a lot of people. Even if like every person didn't try to litter or be a bad person stuff, there's still a lot of cars and people accidentally litter, and just humans have an impact. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which the park ranger that came from has the #1 visitation with almost 13 million. Grand Canyon, Rocky Mountain, Zion National Park. This is me here at Zion. There's actually a really cool hike if you ever get the opportunity. It's called Angel's Landing, and it's pretty steep. And at one point, you like have to hold on to ropes to walk by, and it's like steep drop-offs on both sides. It's pretty scary. And this is Yellowstone here with all these cars. Yosemite, and #7 visited is Acadia. So just a lot of people to think about. People are good to keep the parks going and funded, but yeah, they also can have bad effects. This is Yellowstone, the visitation throughout time. Pretty slow, and now it's rised up to, what's that, 3.5 million. Let's see, Great Smoky, Yellowstone, but yeah, it's a lot, and you can see it's risen a lot, and there's more people in the world now. I guess more people have cars, more people have availability to move around. Does anyone know how many thousands are in a million? Just to grasp these numbers a little better. Thousands in a million. Okay, it's 1,000,000 in a million, which is a lot. These are the demographics. According to one study, I couldn't find too much accurate, or not sure if it's accurate, that white visitors composed 88% of visitation, Asian percent and Hispanic about 11%, and other 1%. When I visited the park, sometimes there were a lot of Oriental people. And international visitors, it says, comprised a total of 25% of visitation. A lot from California for Yosemite, which makes sense because that's their state. My proposal is, it is expensive to get into parks, but maybe we should charge international visitors a higher entrance fee than U.S. citizens, because they are the U.S. National Park Service. So I think that would be fair to have people from Germany, the UK, or China charge like $10 more than a U.S. citizen or something. Okay, do we have time? What time is it? It's 10:30. Okay, we're gonna watch part of this video, and it shows why it's bad to feed animals.
A On January 21st, 2016, members of the Banfftown Wolf Pack were photographed right here in this parking lot at Johnson Canyon, in the heart of the park, scavenging garbage. A year later, 8 wolves are dead, and people like me are asking, why is Banff such a haven for tourists, yet a nightmare for wolves and other wildlife? My name is John E. Marriott, and this episode, we're exposing you to the impact of mass tourism and development on the wildlife of Banff National Park. Banff National Park. This has been my backyard for the past 26 years now. And with its stunning Rocky Mountain scenery and spectacular wildlife, it's no surprise that millions of people flock here each year, making this one of the world's premier tourist destinations. But does this popularity come with a cost? Is the gem of our national park system actually failing at protecting what it's supposed to be protecting? Banff National Park was established in 1885 as Canada's first national park and just the world's third. Today, this UNESCO World Heritage Site spans over 6,600 square kilometers, similar in size to Prince Edward Island or Delaware, and draws visitors from around the world. It is a protected home for 53 mammal species, including some of my favorite animals to photograph: grizzly bears, black bears, moose, elk, deer, mountain goats, bighorn sheep, lynx, and of course, wild wolves. To me and many others, I think wolves really symbolize what wilderness feels like. Not only are they a stunning animal, but science has shown that wolves are a keystone species and an integral part of a healthy ecosystem. In fact, wolves have been shown to positively influence the population size and behavior of their prey, changing foraging patterns and how that prey moves on the land. And there's no better example of the positive role that wolves can play in an ecosystem than the case study of Yellowstone National Park, where wolves were recently successfully reintroduced. I saw the first wolf of my life in Banff in the spring of 1991, just off the Trans-Canada Highway right here at Castle Mountain. I remember watching the wolf across the river here, and all of a sudden being just blown away to see this cow elk come bursting out of the bush with another wolf hot on its heels. The elk lived to see another day, and me, I was hooked. Since that day, I've followed a number of packs all over the Rockies and throughout Banff, from the Bow Valley Pack to the Pipestones to the current Banfftown Pack. I never get tired of watching and photographing these amazing animals. I first encountered the Newtown Wolf Pack in November 2015 when I was driving along the Bow Valley Parkway early one morning. I remember watching them in total awe as the 3 yearling pups danced around curiously in the middle of the road at a distance while Mom and Dad just beelined along, all business, looking for prey. At the time, the family seemed to be thriving, but that was about to change. Sometime in January 2016, construction crews working here at Johnson Canyon left garbage in several open construction bins. On January 21st, a local photographer reported seeing 3 wolves eating that same garbage in the parking lot. That incident began a cascading effect that reads like a crime spree trail. By the end of May 2016, the adult wolves, now feeding 6 new pups, began entering campgrounds and campsites looking for food left out by careless campers. Inevitably, things began to go sideways for the wolves in a terrible way. The events culminated that spring and summer with the deaths of Kootenai, the alpha female, and Scout, one of her yearling pups, both shot and killed by Parks Canada officials that agonized over having to make the decision. Through no fault of their own, the wolves have become food conditioned and were considered a risk to visitor safety. There really was no other option left but to destroy them. Within weeks, the pups began dying too. 4 of them were killed on the Canadian Pacific Railway tracks in the span of a month. And the final 2 pups, well, they just disappeared into the chaos, never to be seen again. 8 wolves dead in less than a year. And guess what the fines were for the 2 construction companies that started it all? $1,000 each. The truth is, this park is in serious trouble. careless behavior such as messy construction sites and campsites are on the rise in Banff, as are visitor and vehicle numbers. In 2014-15, 3.6 million visitors came to the park, and a year later, in 2015-16, visitation numbers jumped a whopping 8%. Banff is now facing a breaking point when it comes to its protection of the park's ecological integrity. There is an ongoing, ever-increasing pressure to commercialize more and more of the park at the expense of the animals that call it home. And while visitation is soaring, Parks Canada has seen its budget shrink almost.
So yeah, that's just a little bit of why we shouldn't leave food out at campsites, and it sucks that they had to kill those wolves to feel like they were protecting the people. So some people call the national parks America's best idea or the greatest American export. We've sent this idea of the national park to the whole world. Clay Jenkinson, he's a historian, he said it's the third best idea after freedom and democracy, but I kind of think freedom and democracy are exemplified within the national park system because it's for the people and you can be free within it. Yeah, the US has sent the national parks idea to the whole world. These are some of the parks in China. They're working on their national park system at the moment, actually setting more land aside for it. They have beautiful areas. These are other world national parks. This is in Chile's Patagonia region. This is in New Zealand. This is in South Africa and Tanzania, just one largest animal reserves. This is a national park in Australia, Uluru, Ayers Rock. These are some ones in South America. This is Angel Falls, Canaima National Park in Venezuela. Kind of the movie Up, I think he wants to put his house right there. So yeah. And now there are more than 4,000 national parks around the whole globe. And that's just great, like America's greatest export, perhaps, saving beautiful places on earth, all because of people like John Muir, which is now
Muir, who founded
being called a racist by the club, Sierra Club, that he founded.
Club in 1892, helped spawn the environmental movement and is called Father of our National Parks, figures prominently in what Brune called a truth-telling about the group's early history. He made derogatory comments about Black people and Indigenous peoples that drew on deeply harmful racist stereotypes. Though his views evolved later in his life, Brune wrote on the group's website, "As the most iconic figure in Sierra Club history, Muir's words and actions carry an especially heavy weight. They continue to hurt and alienate Indigenous people and people of color." Muir, who was born in Scotland, came to the US as a young man and traveled and wrote extensively, romanticizing nature in breathless passages.
So yeah, that's just some of what they've been saying lately, that it's offensive. But this is the governor of California at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a actor actually too in Total Recall, or I don't remember the other one. And he says he's been a role mirror for conservationists around the world. He's taught us to be active and to enjoy, but at the same time to protect our parks, beaches, and mountains. And these are some of the stuff that I could find that Muir actually wrote that was quote unquote offensive, but some of them was kind of positive what he wrote about Native Americans, that their truth came nearer than the truth, like being connected with nature, than the civilized Christianity he had experienced. And at least Muir spent time with and actually saw these Native Americans and honestly observed them and described them. And it's not surprising that sometimes he saw sad things with it, because it wasn't good sometimes what we did to Native Americans. He said they are still our brothers, and that they walk softly and don't hurt the landscape, which I think is kind of a compliment. They say the Indians know how to get certain things out of the nature, the saffrax stalks, lily bulbs, where our Muir writes education has been sadly neglected. Something else they don't like is when he was in Georgia, he was saying they make a great deal of noise doing little work. One energetic white man working with a will could easily pick as much cotton as half a dozen Sambos and Sallies. So he was just saying that they have fun instead of working sometimes. This is Denny's Sambos, which was a chain, and they eventually had to change the name because it was kind of controversial. These are some more stuff that he wrote, that the Indians have learned this wonderful way of walking unseen, making themselves invisible, so kind of like low-key with the native. This is another thing he wrote. She came in, her dress was far from clean. They find that one offensive because he says that mankind is dirty and that animals kind of are cleaner in their own different way. I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there so you guys can think for yourselves and make your own opinion, and just instead of just having someone tell you that Mira was racist. And he also, something that I found interesting, said scolding, so common a curse in civilization, is not known here at all. So the Indians, I guess, didn't scold their young. On the contrary, the young are fondly encouraged without being spoiled. So I just want to propose the question: is the Sierra Club right and or wrong wanting to cut ties to their founder? Teddy Roosevelt has also come under scrutiny. This guy. This statue, you might have seen it, it's been in the news. He's walking with Native Americans. They tried to vandalize it. And yeah, they're getting some heat. Let me stop sharing. Mr. Raymond Barnett, are you there? I asked a scholar on this topic to come join us, but I don't know if he is here. Okay, I'll continue then. A Sambo is, it was like a comical black figure at one point, and it's also, they used it as a story about a guy who was going to get eaten by a tiger, and then he ends up winning and using the tiger to make pancakes for his family or something too. So there's a whole history on that. I'm not sure what Sally's is. So these are our national parks, and just, yeah, we've looked at a lot of them. We looked at some of the Alaska ones today. Voyageurs National Park up here is in a lot of water. You can like canoe around. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, Gateway Arch, Big Arch. Here, the Missouri Ozarks hot springs that I mentioned today. And just a lot to visit, a lot to see, a lot to study, different aspects we can take national parks. A lot to learn about. And this is a timeline of all the parks. Yellowstone started out early. Mount Rainier was 5th.
Excuse me, Alma.
Yes.
Dr. Barnett has commented in the chat that he's having microphone issues and asking if you've unmuted him.
Let me see. Unmute. Hello? Can you speak now? Dr. Barnett? I believe you're unmuted. I am getting some headphones. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna continue pontificating. Okay, and so these are the early national parks. Hawaii volcanoes, which we looked at today, Lassen volcanic cinder cone, and you saw Mesa Verde early on too, which was the place in Colorado with artifacts being taken, and there was no law to protect it, so that's why I came in early. Acadia, here on the second slide, it was a national monument in 1916, and then it was renamed Acadia, which is a French word, I believe, in 1929. Great Smoky Mountains, the Everglades come in here, Grand Teton with Rockefeller, Shenandoah with another park in the east. Petrified Forest, it was a national monument in 06. Muir helped make that a petrified forest, a national monument, and then but it became a national park way later, like 50 years later. So Arches, this too was a national monument in the 30s, but then it took a lot of time to get it a national park officially. These are some of the things that Jimmy Carter included: the Kenai Fjords, Glacier Bay, Katmai, all in Alaska, and they were national monuments, I guess some of them before, but he added more land and stuff. Death Valley, where Mather had his borax company. It was a national monument in the 30s, but it took a lot of time to make it until it became a national park. If you ever get to go to Death Valley, I recommend you visit Saline Valley. It's like hot springs that are really pretty. Saguaro, which were the cactuses, which we looked at today. Great Sand Dunes. And White Sands, New Mexico, the newest park, and the second one is Indiana Dunes. And this is another cool photo at Yosemite. A little couple standing there looking out. Like, what's just out of all those parks, we can pick a favorite park or have several ones we love the most. I think I really like Yosemite. These are some pictures. This is me at Yosemite with Half Dome back here. This is my mom here at the neighboring Sequoia Grove. This kind of nice, some of the family friends I went with. And this is Grand Teton, which I also loved. I'm here with my dad. So Grand Teton National Park. Thanks for a great 2 weeks. It's been fun. And he can't talk still. I'm gonna go inside because it's kind of getting hot.
Are you done, baby?
No, not yet. So, would anybody else like to share their writings or anything about the national parks? Because I promised to give an opportunity to share the writings, but I haven't gotten around to it because we got kind of busy.
Just keep in there. Keep it.
No.
Keep it.
Okay.
Keep it there, you know. Just throw it away.
I wonder if he can talk. Sorry, I'm still no connection. Okay,
Channel.
that's fine. It's unfortunate, but
What's going on? It's rich, except
should we finish watching the video on the wolves and stuff?
that's still all right.
I'm gonna keep on playing that.
Comfortable.
Let's
You
see.
still have property out there? Or farm? Little piece. Is that yours? Mama kicks a bucket.
The field and on the ground in the park, despite the fact it's busier than ever. It often seems as if Parks Canada is more concerned about increasing tourism than it is about nature conservation, despite the fact that nature conservation is a key part of its mandate under the Canada National Parks Act. In fact, the Act states that national parks are to be maintained and used so as to leave them unimpaired for future generations. And an amendment to the Act in 1988 made preserving the ecological integrity of the park the first priority in all management decisions. In other words, Parks Canada is supposed to prioritize the health and well-being of the wildlife, biodiversity, and natural processes inside the park. Unfortunately, the opposite seems to be happening. With the continued increase in visitors, coupled with the decrease in funding and park staffing over the past several years, ecological integrity in Banff is suffering. Our wildlife and our wolves are suffering. With more visitors comes more vehicles, a lot more. In fact, last year the park had almost 4 million visitors, and the majority of them came in by private vehicle. What that means is that the park highways have become ribbons of death, mitigated in recent years, thankfully, by the construction of a wildlife fence along the Trans-Canada Highway between Banff's borders. Unfortunately, the Canadian Pacific Railway that dissects the heart of the park has had no such mitigation, and it remains a killing field for everything from wolves and grizzly bears to elk and deer. Combine the roads and railways with the glut of commercial development in the park, and it's easy to see why the Bow Valley is a tenuous place for carnivores to survive long term. To compound the threat, 2017 is Canada's 150th birthday, and our Liberal government has decided to celebrate the birthday by gifting everyone free entry into our national parks, including into Banff. While that sounds like a great idea on the surface, Banff's already overcrowded townsite and attractions are expecting to be flooded with up to 5 million visitors this year. How will that additional growth further impact our parks and our wildlife? And how's it going to affect the 3 remaining members of the Banfftown Wolf Pack? In recent months, Parks Canada announced some steps to address the expected influx of visitors this year, including a renewed focus on visitor education and a slight increase in funding for conservation staff. But what's really needed at this point is an action plan from the federal government to deal with these problems in Banff. And the truth is, they already have one. In 1996, 20 years ago, the Bow Valley study came up with a clear list of recommendations for what should happen in Banff. Yet the various federal governments over the years have simply ignored most of those recommendations. The federal government needs to revisit that study and dramatically increase funding going back into conservation. Everyone should be able to visit our magnificent national parks and enjoy our wildlife like wolves. But for that to continue to happen, we need to ensure that our parks are protected now and for future generations. In early April, the Banfftown wolf family unfortunately suffered another tragedy. 2-year-old Anik, a black male wolf, dispersed out of the park, was shot and killed by a trophy hunter after leaving his father and sister. His sister's now wandering the Bow Valley on her own, but thankfully, it's not all bad news regarding this wolf family. Much to everyone's surprise, the alpha male, the father, Rusty, is believed to be denning with an unknown wolf or wolves just south of the town of Banff. What will these wolf pups face in Banff? Only time will tell. If you're concerned with the well-being of Banff,
Well, I just want to say thank you for a good 2 weeks, good 6 days of class. I hope you learned about our National Park Service system, its history, different specific parks, and some contemporary issues today. I've had fun teaching it and meeting you guys. I know we're 4 minutes early, but I can cut class off now. So thank you, everyone. If you ever need anything, let me know. Best of luck. You guys are going to be great. You're going to travel everywhere and study and come up with some good stuff.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
I know you just said.